There we go. I have to warn you that at some point during this webinar, I might have to disappear for a minute because like a few people, we're working from home at the moment, and I'm alone in the house, and we are expecting a couple of deliveries today. So the front door might go at any point. So unfortunately, I may have to disappear for just a few seconds, but hopefully that's not going to happen. Let's set our RAS for a session without interruptions, and we'll get started. Let's just put that so we don't get interrupted. Great. Welcome to the second of our lunchtime series. Last week's webinar was all about marketing. This week, it's all about mindset. We've got a few other people who just joined us. Welcome, Digest. Hi, Emma. Hi, Jason. Hi, Warren. Great to see you all. Let's just double check that you can all see the screen, which I've got in front of me. Hopefully you've got in front of you, that says, "You can't hurt me." Can you all see that screen? If you just stick your hands up, that'll be brilliant. The one thing that we do want is 100% participation. So if you can all put your hands up, that'll be absolutely fabulous. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to lower your hands so we've got everybody down. That's brilliant. So we're going to get cracking now. So there's 4 words on that screen which are really important to everybody, and those 4 words are clarity, focus, actions, and results. Everything that we do at Action Coach leads to better clarity for you, leads to more focus, leads to some actions for you to take, and leads to results. Because if you don't take some actions, you don't get the results. There's a reason that we're called Action Coach. Okay, so the most important thing for us right at the moment is BC and AC. You know, we're all you know, in a situation where the world's changing around us. You know, we've got what happened before coronavirus, we've got what's happening during coronavirus, and then we've got what happens after coronavirus. You know, we've all got a decision to make, multiple decisions every day of the week in terms of how we move forwards. And, you know, we've got to remember that in order to grow, you've got to change. You know, businesses in particular are like trees. They're either growing or dying. And you as a business owner, in order to earn more, you've got to learn more. So you've got to remember that the most powerful tool that you have in your armory, the most powerful tool which can help drive you forwards to do things which you probably can't even imagine, or can hold you back from doing even the simplest of things, is this. It's your own mindset, your own limiting beliefs, your own values and other things which will help drive you forwards and hold you back. So our outcomes for today, hopefully for you guys, are for you to learn, to have a bit of fun, to be coached, because I am a coach at the end of the day, but more importantly, to take some action to help move you and your business and your life forwards. The changes that are happening now are here to stay, you know, and the world that we're in is changing constantly. So humans are naturally resistant to change. So what I'm asking you to do today is to embrace it, and be at the front of the pack, be the change that people want to see. Embrace it. That's what we're going to talk about today, lots of change. So in terms of change, you know, there are 2 things you can do. You can sit and wait, or you can be proactive. You can actually make those changes that you want to make. So we have a formula for change, and that formula for change is quite simple. The formula for change is this: D times V plus F has got to be greater than R. So I'm going to ask you to participate now and just put into the chat box, what do you think the R stands for? We have 1 or 2 clients on the call this afternoon, so 1 or 2 of you may know the answer to this. So just stick in the chat box what you think that R stands for. Yeah, let's have some participation. Let's get everybody tapping into that. Let's make sure everybody's on board. So from Warren, from June, from Jason, results question mark. So you've all put results in there. It's actually resistance. It's resistance. So when you look at this, everything that you do has to overcome your resistance to change. If you remember, I said before that humans are naturally resistant to change. You know, we run away from pain at every opportunity and towards pleasure. So if you're in your comfort zone, it's natural to try and want to stay within that comfort zone and not step outside and become uncomfortable. So what we do is got to overcome that resistance. And there are three things which are important. The first one is the D, which is dissatisfaction. If you want to change something, what is it that you're dissatisfied with right now? You've got to have enough dissatisfaction with your current position, whatever that particular thing might be, and want to do something to change it. So what are you dissatisfied with? Emma, that's fine. We'll see you back in a minute. So what are you dissatisfied with right now in your life or business that you want to make a change about? And it's got to be something that's really driving you. You've got to have an amount of dissatisfaction. Plus, you've also got to have a vision. You've got to have an idea of what the outcome will be of making that change. Because if you're dissatisfied with something now and you haven't got a strong vision for a strong idea of what it's going to be like when you've made that change, that's not going to drive you forwards either. So you've got to have dissatisfaction and you've got to have a vision of what the outcome is going to be in order to make that change and overcome the resistance. Plus, you've got to take some first steps. We all know that when you're changing any habit, it takes a while for that habit to implement itself with you. So what are your first steps going to be? Be specific about what you're actually going to do. So whatever it is you want to change, have you got a level of dissatisfaction which is going to drive you to make some kind of change? And have you got a strong vision of what the outcomes are going to be? What's going to be different about it? What's going to drive you to make that change? Multiply those together and you get a level that may start to overcome that initial resistance. But then you've got to take those first steps. You've got to be absolutely clear about what your first steps are going to be. Once you've taken those first steps and then you take your second steps, you start to build up some momentum. And those added together will be enough to overcome the resistance that you feel. Give you a quick example. If you want to get fitter, if you're really unhappy with your current fitness levels, you're out of breath walking up the stairs, you feel like you should be better, you feel like you need to make a change because you're really unhappy with how you're feeling right now, and you've got a strong vision of what that change is going to mean. You're going to be fitter, you're going to be able to run, you're going to be able to do things without getting out of breath, you're going to feel better about your body. You've got all this strong vision. And then you've got those first steps that you've got to take. So you look through, you get out of bed, you throw the quilt back, you look out the window, it's a bright morning, and you get up, you put your shoes on, get your gear on, put your shoes on, go out for a walk or a jog to help get you started on that regime. Nothing too strenuous at first. You're going to build up and get some momentum. And you do that for 2 or 3 days, you think, great, everything's going well. And then the next day, you get up, you open the curtains, or you lean out of bed, you open the curtain, and it's blowing a gale. It's a day like today where it's chucking it down with rain, it's windy, it's cold, it's damp, and the resistance is your lovely warm quilt and your lovely warm bed calling you back in. It's calling you back in. So is your dissatisfaction with how you are now and your vision of how it's going to be strong enough? And have you got enough momentum to overcome the resistance of those suckers on your bed sucking you back into under that quilt? Hope that makes sense to everybody. Some of you may have already actually had that feeling about trying to get fit, but it may be something else. Whatever it is, you can overcome that resistance by having those things in place. So just in this little bit, what I'd like you to do is just stick into the chat box what your biggest learning is so far from the webinar today. Just put in the chat box what you've learned from the webinar today already that you might be able to implement, or any action points that you've got that you might be able to implement in terms of changing. Well, let's have 100% participation for everybody. Let's have everybody putting something into the box. while I take a quick drink of water. I had a little bit of a coughing fit earlier on. It's definitely not coronavirus. But every time I cough, you get that in the back of your mind, don't you? So the formula for change, Jason, that's great. Yeah, just think about that in terms of what you want to change and apply that principle to everything you want to change. Thanks, June. Thanks for your comment there. That's brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Okay, so formula for change. Brilliant. So moving on, this is me, Paul Lim, and I've been coaching now for over 30 years. I started my coaching career in high performance sports. For those who don't know me already, I was a skydiving instructor and a formation skydiving coach. So every week I was helping people to get outside the comfort zones, people who turn up at the parachute center at 9:30 on a Saturday morning thinking they were going to die because they were going to chuck themselves out of an aeroplane or be chucked out of an aeroplane. And by 5:30, we'd convinced them that it was perfectly reasonable to throw themselves out of a serviceable aeroplane at 2,500 feet and survive. So that's how I started my coaching career. I've been in marketing and sales all my business life. I've run companies and helped business owners from individual sole traders, family-owned companies, all the way through to Fortune 500 companies. As I said earlier, the biggest failure in business is the failure to participate. Everybody makes mistakes and you learn from your mistakes. If you're not giving it 100%, you won't get 100% back. Give it 100% in this webinar, you'll get 100% out. Do take notes, participate at 100%, and capture some strategies and ideas that'll help you to grow your business. Let me give you a quick example about participating at 100%. Imagine you're in your Boeing 747. I know they're being taken out of service now, so I'm going to have to think of another example. Your Boeing 747 and you're sat at the start of the runway. Does anybody know what the takeoff speed is of a Boeing 747? Just stick it in the chat box, give me your best guess, or if you know, what's the takeoff speed of a Boeing 747? 170 knots. Is that a guess, Warren, or is that, do you actually know that? 500 miles an hour from Emma. Okay, any other guesses? No idea. Okay, well, it depends on, obviously, on the weight of the aircraft and a few other variables, but it's around about 182 miles an hour. It's expressed slightly different when you express it in knots. Imagine this. The pilot sat at the controls and thinking that 150 miles an hour might do. And then they grab a brew as they're tootling off down the runway. Do you think they're giving it 100% at that stage? As a passenger on that aircraft, do you want that pilot to be giving his 100% concentration to the takeoff speed they need to attain? Just imagine that aircraft was taking off and they were on a runway that had an ocean at the end of it. Would you be really focused on making sure that they were focused on getting 182 miles an hour? Because 175 miles an hour won't do it, will it? You've got to have 100% participation. Let's talk about the balancing act and why some people can thrive in the face of it's easy for you to say, isn't it? In the face of adversity, while others buckle under the pressure. You know, there's two areas to look at here. There's the positives and the negatives. The stress, pressure, problems, setbacks, adversity. Though, just think about the feelings that reading or saying those words give you. And then think about the positives, you know, the willpower, the mindset and the teamwork that you can have that's going to help drive you forwards. We all get negative thoughts. We all have stress, pressure at different levels. Some people cope with it better than others. And there's a balancing act here to be achieved. We've got to balance the negatives with the positives. And that balance is around about 3 to 1, because negative emotions are much more powerful than positive. So if you've got one negative emotion, you've got to have 3 positives just to balance that out. So resilience is born at the power of 3 to 1. Resilience is the ability to suffer hardship and not to falter. It's one of the most important determinants of whether we succeed or fail in achieving our desires, whether that's business or whether it's in your personal life. Resilience is really important, and it comes at the ratio of 3 to 1. So think about that when you are thinking about when you feel negatives, put some positives in place. Resilience involves thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that can be learned and developed. It's not a natural God-given gift. These can be learned and developed. But resilience is so important. That's because we're confronted with adversity every day, and more so now than ever before. So let's have a look at that balancing act. If we're suffering from setbacks, then the stress and the pressure and the problems, the setbacks, the adversity are outweighing the positives that we have. If we achieve that balance of 3 to 1, then you've got a balance. You can start to move forward. You've got that resilience. And you're beginning to get that resilience, you say. But when you're powering through, when you can really outgun the negatives that you're getting with more positives, then you start to get even more resilience. You start to get to a stage where you're really powering through the negatives and the adversity that you're suffering, and you have the mental strength and the resources. So if you do have a negative, you can rebound quickly from it and recover more fully from the setbacks you might have. I want to talk about comfort zone a little bit to you as well. I mentioned earlier that human beings seek pleasure and avoid pain at every opportunity. Hope that makes sense to you all, because we all do it. So let's give you an example. Let's say you need to make some challenging phone calls. I bet most of you probably go and make a brew, make a coffee, make a tea first. Maybe you'll go and check your emails, and then you'll click on a couple of links, and you click on a few more links. And before you know it, you put in the pro into procrastination, and you're looking at videos of fluffy cats on YouTube an hour and a half later. Does that happen to anybody? So think about where you are inside your comfort zone, because it's time to expand your comfort zone. What I want you to do is, on your pad in front of you, hopefully you've all got a pad and a pen in front of you. I want you to draw a small circle in the middle of that pad, and then draw a bigger circle around it, and then draw an even bigger circle around that. I used to say, draw 3 concentric circles on your pad, but not everybody understood that. So draw a small circle in the middle, a bigger circle around it, and then an even bigger circle around that. Can you just have a hands up when you've done that, please? Just give us a quick hands up. So have hands up from everybody. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to lower all your hands again now. So that middle circle is your comfort zone. That's where you sit most of the time, in your comfort zone, when you're seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. The next circle out, some people would call your uncomfortable zone. In professional athletes, coaching terms, they call it the performance zone. And it's the same in business. It becomes your performance zone. The outside circle, outside of that, is what's called the fear zone. It's where you go outside of your uncomfortable zone and into your fear zone, where you become paralyzed. Sometimes it'll be analysis paralysis, procrastinate, whatever it is, but it's your fear zone where you're freezing and you absolutely can't do anything. Where do you think the best point is in order for you to grow and develop? Let's have a comment in the chat box from all of you. Where do you think the best place is to grow and develop in your life and in your business? In the middle. Yeah, Jason, I presume from that you mean the performance zone. Warren, Emma, yeah, exactly right, in the performance zone. In the middle circle, that's exactly right. Everybody's got that, that's brilliant. More importantly, it's at the outside point. The more uncomfortable you can make yourself, then the more quickly you will grow and develop. I'll give you a quick example. A lot of people will be really uncomfortable doing webinars, actually speaking on camera. I know I was when I first started. Or to give you another example, pre-COVID, a lot of people would be very uncomfortable or even have a fear of public speaking, actually getting up on stage and speaking to a group of people, whether it's 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people. And that would stop them actually getting up and either doing a webinar or standing up on stage and speaking in public and helping them to develop and grow their business maybe. The first time you do it, it's really uncomfortable. You might be on the edge of your uncomfortable zone. And then the more you do, the more comfortable it becomes. The more you learn and develop, the more help you get, the more coaching you get on public speaking, and the more times you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it, until eventually it feels very comfortable to get up on stage and speak to a group of people. So what's happened to your comfort zone? Your comfort zone has gone from the middle, and has expanded to become what originally was your uncomfortable zone. So now your performance zone or your uncomfortable zone has become your comfort zone. And what was your fear zone has now become your performance zone. So the more uncomfortable you can make yourself and the more you can overcome that fear, then the more you will learn and grow and develop in whatever areas you want to make that change. Any action points from you? Capture them now on your page and just pop them into the chat box. Any learning points for you from that? Anything, any areas of change that you're looking at and you think, right, I need to do something different here, then capture them now on your page. If you've got a coloured pen, if you've got a red pen, put a big red circle around them because it'll help you capture those at the end of the webinar and help you to remember those and move forwards. Now, there's a word that I've used already today. Great. Jason, Emma, thanks for that. 3 to 1. Absolutely. Resilience starts at the power of 3 to 1. There's a word I've already used today on a number of occasions, and it's what's stopping you. What's stopping you from moving forwards? And that word is fear. So what is fear? When you feel fear, what is it actually telling you? Just pop into the chat box. What is fear? When you suffer from fear, when you feel fear, what do you think it's actually telling you? Pop it in the chat box what you think. I can't do this. Okay. Anything from anybody else? That's really interesting. So when you feel fear, you feel like it's telling you those things. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Listen, what fear actually is false expectations appearing real. When we are born, the only things we're really afraid of are loud noises and falling. Everything else is a learned fear. It's the result of other situations that have occurred throughout our life to get to the position where we are now. Babies don't suffer from all of these things about fear of failure and feeling like they need to avoid something or being judged. So for me, it's about false expectations appearing real. It's actually saying, caution. Move ahead with caution. So get that into your head when you're thinking about, when you feel fear, because it's an emotion, isn't it? It has physical symptoms in a body. Interestingly, we get the same physical symptoms whether it's fear or excitement. In fact, Brad Sugars, our action coach's founder, once said to me, look, Paul, you know you've made a good decision when it fills you with equal amounts of fear and excitement. But it's how we interpret those feelings that we get in our head as to whether that's fear or excitement. For some people, when you step onto the queue for a huge roller coaster, we feel like we're suffering from fear. We're afraid. But other people, when they step on that queue for that giant roller coaster, get those same feelings, but to them it's excitement. They can't wait to get on and have that excitement of the ride. So think about this. When you have fear, think about it as false expectations appearing real, and it's saying caution. Move ahead with caution. Now, there's 4 ways to overcome fear. So I want to introduce you to Rachel. Rachel wants to go from A to B, from here to there in her life. But there's something stopping her, and that something is fear. Let's have a look at what she can do to get past that. How the heck am I going to get through this? Okay, so there's 4 different things we can do. Scenario 1. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier on. The real BFO, the blinding flash of the obvious for this is this. And I would write this down if I were you. That voice in your head. It's the biggest thing that can drive us to do things that we previously thought impossible, or can hold us back from doing the simplest of things. Self-talk. So, scenario 1, tell yourself, give yourself positive affirmations. Do any of you have positive affirmations? Do you have some positives that you've got written down? I've got my affirmations written down on the wall next to me, and I read them out loud to myself every day, probably 4 or 5 times a day, particularly before I do a webinar, to be the best that I can possibly be on each webinar, before I do a coaching call with a client, before I make some challenging calls that I've got to make, whatever it happens to be, I've got some really positive affirmations, because that self-talk can help me to get over the fear of what I'm going to do. So scenario 1, tell yourself to get over it. So Rachel, get over it, can say to herself, get over it, Rachel, come on, drive yourself forward, you can do this, you can do this. Emma, you've asked for some examples. So my affirmations, my general affirmations are this: I am focused, I am resilient, I am a leader, I am confident, I am growth-minded, and I am successful. Those are my affirmations. They're actually written, let me show you, so you can see. They're written down there on that piece of paper on the wall down there. If I'm about to do a webinar, I will say, I am going to be brilliant at this webinar. I am confident. I am clear. My body language is excellent. The people on this call are going to participate at 100%. Everybody at the end of this call is going to fill in a feedback form. I am the most confident person at doing webinars. I am brilliant at doing webinars. So does that answer your question, Emma? Does that give you an example of the kind of affirmations that we can use? You can just, yeah, great. Okay, cool. So you can say to yourself, get over it. Now, there's other things you can do around affirmations. We use what we call IVVM. So think about the ideal outcome that you want. So what's your ideal outcome for any one situation? Number 2, is visualize what that ideal outcome is going to look like. Make sure it's really vivid in your mind. You know, if it's a particular visualization, if it's about a webinar, visualize you being excellent on that webinar. Visualize everybody just participating in the chat, constantly participating in the chat. Visualize and feel the feelings that you're going to get when you've been successful. And then speak out loud some affirmations. So verbalize those affirmations. Affirmations are brilliant at helping. It's that positive self-talk. And then when things begin to materialize, reflect back on what you visualize and your verbalization, sorry, excuse me, to help you in the next time you do it. And acknowledge what you've done prior to that has helped you to have a brilliant session. So scenario 1, Rachel, tell yourself to get over it. I'm going to get over it. I'm going to get over it. You know, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And that will help you to get over it. Scenario 2 is different. Viktor Frankl, great quote from Viktor Frankl: those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. So Viktor Frankl, for those of you who don't know him, survived 4 Nazi concentration camps. And while he was in those camps, he started to do some research. He began to see people around him dying. More and more people coming into the camps and more people dying. But he had a reason for living, a purpose, his why. And he started coaching other people in the camp and getting them excited about their own future and about what was going to come afterwards. And the more he coached them, the more people survived because they had their why. There's a great book by Simon Sinek all about finding your why. And we haven't got time to go into that today, but if you can't get over this, then this fear, then your why just isn't big enough. So your vision, you know, we talked about dissatisfaction times vision earlier on. So what's your vision for the future? What's your why? What's it going to mean to you to get over this? Think about what this actually means to you to get over this situation. And if you can develop a strong enough why, then it will help you to overcome this fear. To give you a short example, if I was holding a gun, if you hated doing telephone calls, if you had to make 40, if I said to you, look, if you do 40 calls, you'll get a client. If you do 40 calls, you'll get 20 follow-ups, you'll do 10 meetings, you'll get 1 client as a result of it. But you've got to do those 40 dials and you hate picking the phone up. And you just go, oh, I can't do it. If I get a gun and hold that gun to your family's head, to the ones that you hold and love most dear to you, and said, if you don't do this, then, you know, it's the end for them. Would that be a big enough why for you to actually pick up the phone and make those dials? For most people, the answer will be yes, hopefully. So you've got to develop a strong why, a strong vision about what the future is going to hold for you to get over that initial fear. As Viktor Frankl did and coached other people to do in the concentration camps. Scenario 3. Well, fear is an emotion, isn't it? And what can overcome emotion? This is a writer downer for you. So write this down on your pads. Logic can overcome fear. So you've got this big boulder in front of you. Right now, what's the very first thing that you need to do? What's step 1? What's the logical step 1 in overcoming this boulder? And then when you've done that, what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? The key to this is action. It's movement, because the more you get, the more momentum you get. So fear is emotion, and you can beat emotion with logic. So take step 1, take step 2, take step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. And that will mean as you gather momentum, it will become easier to overcome your fear. And the fourth scenario is to kill the fear. Kill it at its root cause. And that means you may have to go and see a specialist. Something like a psychotherapist, a counsellor. Kill it at the root. You know, we recommend many of our clients to go and see a specialist. In fact, we have an arrangement with a counsellor, and all of our clients get the opportunity to have an initial telephone session for free. And then we actually pay as a client for them to go and see that counsellor for their next session for free as well, because we feel it's so important and it helps clients to overcome some of those limiting beliefs. So if you can't use scenario 1, 2, or 3 to get over your fear, then go see a specialist and get them to help you get to the root cause and kill that root cause so you can move forwards. So you'll be a changed person. Growth by confronting and overcoming your fears is really important. And it's the power to grow. Now, I've got a question for you, which is this: are you above or below the point of power? So, and this is an important share. If I were you, I'd share this with your friends. Make sure you're writing all of this down and share it with your friends. Refer to that yellow circle as the point of power. What is this point of power? Well, time moves in small increments. The yellow dot is a point in time, a moment in time where you can make choices. There's 6 mindsets you can have. You know, below the point of power, there are blame, excuses, and denial. Blame, so blame Boris, blame the bank, blame COVID, blame anything but myself. Or you can make excuses. You know, my customers just aren't buying. There's too much to learn. I'm too afraid to do anything about this. You know, inadvertently, you aren't taking a step forward, you're taking a step back if you're using blame, excuses, or even denying that there's any kind of issue. You know, optimistic denial, it'll be okay. Yeah, I'll get this organized tomorrow. Or I'll stop smoking when I finish this pack of cigarettes. You know, optimistic denial. It'll be all right after COVID. Things will be all right. You know, things will go back to the way they were. Well, that's not going to happen. Disney's got a great quote. Yesterday's history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. And that's why it's called the present. Anybody know where that's from? Anybody love the cartoons, the cartoon films? Stick in the chat box if you know which film that was from. First one might get a prize. Yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. No, not Warren, not Frozen Warren. We can tell you've got a young daughter. No, it's Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda, so nobody wins a prize. So what we're asking you to do is to actually, instead of being powerless to do anything about it by being below the point of power, but rather than having a victim mentality, is to have a victor mentality, to be a winner, to have the power to do something about it by taking responsibility. It's your ability to respond to a given situation. And accountability is you holding yourself to account for the actions you're going to take. Decide that you're the only one who can do something about this instead of blaming everybody else for the situation. And ownership is about leadership. You're in charge, you're making the decisions, you're the one who's taking ownership. You're becoming the owner of your ship. You're becoming the captain of your ship and steering it in the right direction. The last thing to look at from a mindset perspective is opportunity. What's your philosophy on opportunity? You know, there's opportunity everywhere. And let's take an example. Let's plot growth over time. What's your current trajectory in terms of your growth, either personal or in your business? And then let's say that this white dot here is an opportunity. You haven't done anything about it yet, but it's there. You need to be willing to overcome your fear, to use those scenarios that we looked at earlier, to overcome your fear, to take responsibility, to measure how you were doing, and become accountable. Take real ownership and make a decision to grasp it and to take that opportunity. And then next week, you get another opportunity. And then next week, and then next week, and then next week, and then next week, and then next week. See what happens. See the gap that starts to develop? That's called the opportunity gap. Jump up and grab those opportunities, because every missed opportunity increases the cost of not taking those opportunities, of developing yourself and your business. All of this is going to make you stronger, faster, and fitter. Okay. We're going to look briefly at another opportunity that you all have. Those of you who are already clients on this call know about the 5 ways of growing your business. Most business owners know how many customers they've got, what their revenue or their turnover is, and how much profit they make. You've got to see your business as an opportunity, and a strong mindset will help you to focus on the following key areas in your business, because these are all just results. So for those of you who already know this, I would ask you to think about how focused are you actually on putting these actual numbers into a chart, into a simple recorded system that you can see all day on your wall in front of you, and help you to focus on each of these areas. So the number of leads you have times your conversion rate, so converting those leads to customers, the number of transactions, the average number of transactions per customer, your average invoice value, your profit margin. All of these are really important and contribute towards the additional customers, additional revenue, and additional profit. So these are imaginary numbers. This is an imaginary company, and I'm going to show you the impact of using these focus and these areas and these opportunities. This is the example of a simple business and looking at what can happen. So you've got a business that generates 4,000 leads per year. 25% of those leads convert into customers. Your conversion rate is 25%. So you get 1,000 customers. Each of those customers on average transacts twice a year. They come back and buy twice a year from you. And then their average invoice value is £100. Some could be more, some could be less. That gives you a revenue of £200,000. And if your gross profit is 25%, it gives you a gross profit of £50,000. Now, if we start focusing on these areas, and as your coach, we help you to get better at focus, at measuring, at looking at each key area, and we start doing more of what works and less of what doesn't work, it's going to have an impact on each of the key areas, and you're going to be getting a small increase. If we then start adding a new strategy, helping you to implement that and getting a test and measure on it to make sure it's working properly, over time you can get increases in your business in each of these key areas. The opportunity here comes when you look at the compound effect of these increases. So if you get a 10% increase, a small 10% increase on the number of leads and on your conversion rate, so we're not adding 10%, just increasing it by 10%, that takes you to already 1,210 customers. That's 21% increase. If you can get your existing customers to come back and buy more often from you, and then you can increase your average sale value by 10% each, that has a massive impact on your revenue. And that's focusing just on 4 key areas in your business. And this is what we do with our clients. We help them to focus on those key areas and help them to move forwards. So that gives you a 46% increase in your revenue. Working on those 4 areas is going to have an impact on your profit margins, but there are other things you can do to help you with your profit margins, like negotiating with suppliers, selling more of the high gross margin products that you have or services that you have. And that will give you an 80,000 gross profit. That's a 61% increase in your gross profit. You just have a quick hands up, who'd like a 61% increase in the gross profit? Glad you all said yes. And lower your hands again. But just for fun, Imagine you can double those numbers. Imagine you can have an 100% increase in each of those areas. This is what happens to your numbers then. So that's 50k to 1.6 million, 10% versus 100%. The good thing is, if you focus on this for 5 to 7 years and consistently keep adding 10%, then you will achieve those numbers. And we've got case study over case study of clients who've done this, who've had clarity and focus on what they do, taken action and got the results. They've learned a hell of a lot along the way. We as their coach, we've helped them to grow and develop, and then we've held them accountable for doing the work they need to do, help them get over their fears and take the opportunities that are there in front of them. So my question to you is, are you going to take the opportunity that's in front of you now? And when it comes to your sustainable competitive advantage in your business, it's teamwork. Teamwork's really important in your business. In most companies, the owner tries to do everything in the business. They're trying to look after the team, look after the customers, and look after the business itself. It's this virtuous circle. So in the ideal business, a business that works so you don't have to, the owner just has to look after the team. Make sure you recruit the right people, motivate them in the right way, reward them in the right way, lead them and manage them effectively as the owner of the business. The team will look after your customers, get more new customers for you, get those customers buying more often and more profitably. And the customers will look after your business by the extra profits it generates for the business. The business looks after the owner in the way that you want it to, with residual profit from the business and more time to do the things which are really important to you. So think about that virtuous circle. The key to success with your team is involvement. Get them involved in everything that you do. Allow them to take risks as they're growing. You know that as you're learning new stuff, you make mistakes. Allow an element of risk taking within your business. As other people grow into your business, allow them to take risks and make mistakes, but learn from them and come back stronger. But leadership and management is key. Clear communication and 100% involvement with you and your team is crucial to this. So there we are. We're coming to the end of our lunchtime webinar. I would love you to put into the comments box, into the chat box, what are the 5 things that you need to do now? What are the 5 things? What are your 5 biggest learnings from this webinar today? You've got to yearn to learn. So have a look back through your notes and have a look at what your biggest learnings from today have been. What I'd like you all to do as well is to take the opportunity that's in front of you right now, for those who aren't clients already, to have a complimentary business strategy session. Warren, that's brilliant. The key to this, Warren, is you've got those 7 pages of notes. Get some key actions, some key focus as a result of those 7 pages of notes. Scan through them and pick out a few very key actions for you. What are your biggest learnings? What are your biggest action points as a result? So here you can see, brilliant, great, Warren. There's a link on the bottom of this. So for those who aren't clients, are you going to take the opportunity to have a one-to-one gifted coaching session, a business strategy session for you, around you and around your business? I'm going to put a link into the box now. It's the link that's on that page there. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a feedback form. So what I'd like you to do, if you can, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Please take the time to just click on that link now and complete that feedback form. This applies to everyone, clients or non-clients. I really want to know how we can make these webinars better. So what can we do? What is the positive feedback? If you've got any critique for us or opportunities to improve, then I want to hear those. We'd like to know how we've done for you guys today. I want to make sure that you've all had some learnings out of this that you can help and move forward with. So we're getting some great comments in the box. Create strong logic strategy to help overcome your fears and change your failure mindset. Jason, stop your failure mindset now. Start putting into place some positive affirmations. Have positive affirmations around your mindset. One of the things I'd suggest you do when you're writing affirmations is you've got to believe it. So if you say, I am confident in public speaking, and you don't really believe it, then it's not going to help you that much in terms of affirmations. So instead say, I am in the process of becoming very confident at doing public speaking. So I am in the process of will help your mind to believe it. So if you don't believe you're confident right now, say I am in, as your affirmation, I am in the process of becoming uber confident at public speaking. Hope that makes sense. Some great comments there, Emma. Thank you. Positive affirmations, that ratio of 3 to 1, and ownership. Take ownership of everything that you do. Has anybody got any questions for? June. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. I welcome feedback in every form, whatever that might be. I would only ask that if it's a criticism, make it a constructive criticism. That's all I ask of people. And I love, obviously, positive feedback as well, because it helps me, you know. So please click on that link. It's really important to us to get feedback. If you've enjoyed today's session, the only expectation I have of you is that you put a post onto LinkedIn about it, please. Put a post on there, tag me in on LinkedIn if you can, and tag Action Coach Bolton in on LinkedIn. And then also we've got some other resources that you can take advantage of. Please follow our LinkedIn company page, Action Coach Bolton. And then follow our Facebook page. If you're a Facebook fan, go to Facebook and look for Action Coach Bolton. If you put at Business Coach NW, that will take you to our page, at Business Coach NW. We also have another business growth page called Grow Your Business. It's a Facebook group called Grow Your Business. It's a closed group for business owners based in the Northwest who want to grow themselves and their business. So please join that group. If you search for Grow Your Business Northwest, I think it is on Facebook. And we have a Friday lunchtime Zoom meeting. It's a drop-in meeting. So every Friday lunchtime in the run up to Christmas, we've relaunched this during the second lockdown. It worked really successfully during the first lockdown. We want people to jump on that call. It's just a relaxed, informal Zoom meeting, so we'll be able to see you on video and hear you. And we can talk about whatever opportunities or challenges, any questions that you have. We have some resident experts. One of them is Emma, who's on the call today, on the webinar today, from Embrace HR, who we rely on for our HR advice and has helped many of our clients as well. We have an accountancy practice that helps us. So there's all sorts of different things that we can do to help. So please, it's 12:30 on a Friday. Jump on that call with us. You can get the link by just emailing us at bolton@actioncoach.com or going onto our website, bolton.actioncoach.co.uk, and just clicking on the link at the top that takes you to COVID-19 support for business. Loads of stuff on there. Thank you very much for your participation. I will send you a link to the recording. If you can mention us on Facebook or on LinkedIn, that would be absolutely fantastic. Have a brilliant week, everybody, and I look forward to catching up with you very soon. Take care.